Just figure things out, whatever you want to. You want to spend some quiet time with yourself or spend some time doing creative work. This is what you can do if you come to Turiyo. So if you do happen to stop by, give me a shout out and we will make it happen. We'll make your trip happen. Hi, welcome to Turiyo. I'm going to give you a quick walkthrough of this place. This is like your first look at this thing that we have set up. Right to your, as you enter, there is this pond. We called it the Arjun Tala because there used to be like an Arjun tree here, standing, which is a very old tree. It's died right now. This is a big bokul tree that you can see here. It was planted by my great-grandfather and it's in full glory right now. It's growing and thriving. They grow hundreds of years old. To your left is a garage where we can park our vehicles, and let me walk you through to this room. This is where we used to run our pilot program, the FALA program, the Future Arts and Learning Alternatives. I will not take you there right now, but I will just show you a little bit that there is this courtyard here. We are going to enter the courtyard. This is the main quadrangle where we have a couple of rooms for people to stay, and this is the courtyard, and I will walk you through there. So if you stand here as you have come right in from the entrance, this is how it looks. There is this new building which is there, which is a place of residence. But for most of our guests, we have these little row houses, this little very old, bungalow style houses. This used to be all mud huts and used to be thatch roof, but now it's like a paka house. So that same quad which I was showing you from the outside, you can see here. This is the quad, and we have these little trees here, all the fruit trees. That's like a jamun tree right there. Jam tree, as we say in Bengali, is the aam, and on the right hand side is the jackfruit or the kathal. In Bengali we have this thing called aam, jam, kathal, and like that's the quintessential, the three fruit trees that you must have. This is the place where there was the original mud house, and now it's been replaced by the living quarters. We're going to take a quick walk right now down this path, and as we walk down this path onto the left hand side, we have a Shiv Mandir, which is the Shiva temple. This is a very simple temple that we built, and we brought the Lord Shiva here from Kashi, from Asighat in Kashi. That's because I have been personally a big fan and a bhakt of Lord Shiv, and that's why we built the mandir for him. Upcoming there's a Shivratri, and we are going to be celebrating it in full glory here. Fruit garden, not something big to talk about, but these are, we have mango, we have jackfruit, we have little, ambra, we have little lychees, we have little star fruit. There's all kinds of stuff, and that's like the water tank which supplies water to this entire place. On the left hand side is another big pond. We call it the Pukur. So this is the place which was the big original pond. So the one you saw before was Arjun Tala. This is the one which is the Pukur. It's quite deep, and there are a whole bunch of trees around. As you can see, there's a kadam tree here, there are the deodars, there is another mango tree, and this is like the big tamarind tree, which has been here for ages, and it really is in full bloom right now. You can see all the tamarinds hanging from the branches. If you look around and if you follow it around, you're going to see it flowering and with bearing fruits all across the tree. It's a very old tree, and we get plenty of tamarinds from this, right? So we're going to keep walking now, and this is what we call as a ghat. And a ghat is where you can sit and chill and then go for a bath, and this is where we take our regular baths here. The pond is called a Pukur in Bangla, so this is called a Pukurer Ghat, and now this is done out of concrete and got nice tiles and all that, but Earlier it was just a mud place, with some dead trees through which we would clamber and take a bath. But if you are here in Turiyo, this is a place where you can take a bath. As you can see here, a pond survives and thrives by itself. There are the ducks in the pond. There is also water being recycled in the pond. It's a self-sustaining ecosystem, and this is where you would enjoy having a bath on a hot summer's day. This is like a tree which is flowers only in this month of March and April. This is called the kanchan tree, and these are the kanchan flowers. They look like orchids. They're very beautiful. And then next to it is the kamini, and the kamini will come with very light fragrance. They're all going to start blooming now, because it's a spring. So this is the place where we have a gate, and we walk right in here, and there is this new house which is built where I stay right now. On my right is bamboo groves. So if you're in a mood to just sit quietly in a place and reflect on the nature of the world, no better place than this bamboo grove. It has its own mystery, as I will cover later in one of my stories. But this is a grove which has existed for almost a century, and bamboo trees are like this. The old ones, as you can see, are leaning this side. It's because of a big cyclone that had blown through. Many of you have heard of the Amphan cyclone, which wreaked havoc in Bengal. And then there are the newer bamboos which are coming up and which are going vertical right up there. This side we have our garden, and this is a new garden, relatively new garden. All these trees have come up here in the last 3 years, and we have planted all these trees in the hope that it becomes a forest, and it will. They are all pretty growing healthy. There is this house here where I sit and I work. My study area is in this place. I will take you inside a little later, and on that side, if you can kind of walk in, there is another room, like a spare place for you to sit and work and sleep or whatever you would like to do. So this is again by a little cottage by itself. On a windy day, the chimes will go, and it creates a very melodious environment here. So one can just choose to stay in this room. This is a place where we do all our composting. You can see our roosters busy, figuring out what to eat. But this is a place where we do our composting, and all our waste material comes here, and we turn it back into manure for the plants, right? Again, this is the kind of the time when the trees would shed all their leaves. So otherwise, if it was in wind, in the monsoon, it would be dense green foliage. But even considering that this is the time when all the leaves are shed, it's pretty green, as you can see. This side is our little vegetable garden. So we grow our own little vegetables here, from spring onions to tomatoes to broccoli and cabbage. So whatever be the seasonal vegetables, we will grow them here. So all these trees are just about 2 years old, and they're going to all grow pretty big. They're all the tree which you can see on this side, it's like the kodam. Next to is a tree called the shimul, like this vertical bamboo kind of a tree. They're all in this early stages of growth. The almond trees which you can see on the border, they have grown quite big, and you can see that they have got some magnificent structure. They'll come out and they will spread out like an umbrella. So trees are a big part of our life here. There's this one last pond. Bengal is always full of ponds. It's full of water bodies. So this is like this last pond. This was earlier just a small ditch which we have dug up, and we are now starting to build this up as well. So it's a very nice one to kind of just jump in and do some fishing. One can sit here and reflect upon, again, the state of life, the state of the earth. There are plenty of birds all around here, plenty of birds that you can see, and you can you can listen to their absolutely musical notes. This is like the great banyan tree that we hope will build up once this was planted here by Rohini. There's a saying that you don't typically bring in a banyan tree inside your neighborhood, inside your residential place. This is meant because it makes you like an ascetic. Gautam Buddha had sat below this tree and achieved nirvana, but we are very happy to keep it next to our house. We hope, and it will, grow really, really big one day, so my future generations can sit below it and meditate. The last little bit that I will take you through right now is what we affectionately call Kanai Park. This is a little space to just chill. It's like a little gazebo area, and I named it Kanai Park because it was my uncle's dream to have a little place where he could sit and chill, and we created this place for him in his name, in his memory. So again, this is a place where you come in. This is like the straw, which we get from the paddy, and so it's a very natural, cool setting. You can see the structure here. It's all made of hand woven and bundled in. It's also a skill which is fast disappearing. So we like in Bengali we say it's like a khoder chal. So this is like a khoder chal, nice place to sit. And that's it. We have come towards the end of the Turiyo campus. This little small place where we hope to build out a small residency program. So if you're a writer, composer, musician, philosopher, and you want to come in and spend a few days in Turiyo, I just wanted to give you a quick look at what's there. There's really nothing as from a sightseeing perspective. That's a great place to just be here, be in this quiet little quaint Bengal village, and just figure things out. Whatever you want to spend some quiet time with yourself or spend some time doing creative work. This is what you can do if you come to Turiyo. So if you do happen to stop by, give me a shout out, and we will make it happen. We'll make your trip happen. That's it for today. This business of going back in time and sharing memories, I was having this question in my mind that what's leading me to this? What is making me wanting to share these stories? And that scene from that film Inception, where all the dreams kind of come crashing down. That was the scene which was, kind of coming into my mind as I thought about this. And these years and years of memories, from the time I was a little kid and used to come to this place and, surrounded by people and structures which don't exist now, to me almost seems like a dream. It's very difficult for me to even fathom and go back in time, and the more I think about it, I feel that they're just all melting, and they're melting at a ferocious speed, and unless I kind of hold on and clutch at them and archive them, they're going to go. And I'm always very puzzled about what happens to all these memories when they disappear. Collectively, if you think about it, millions and millions, billions of people all having their memories of their life from the time they were born and when they have aged, like me, and we are in this last quarter, if I were to say, of my life. What happens to these memories? Some are held back in photographs, but the real nuanced story is because the medium didn't even exist. One just loses it all, and I feel it's just a terrible loss, right? How many people can write books and put together the stories? Or if you're a famous person, there's a lot of history which is written about it. But even then, you don't get to know those little memories. So today I just want to share some of those memories which are linked to material things. Like in this case, it's linked to the space, it's linked to the trees, it's linked to some objects that we are going to see. And I want to kind of leave this behind for the future generation. Maybe you, maybe your kids, maybe people beyond that, because I believe this medium will somehow exist and these stories will then have a little bit of a leg. So if somebody stops by in Turiyo or comes in and lives here or spends some time, through these stories, I will be able to relate back into those times. And I know that there were times even beyond that, but now nobody kept those stories alive for me. Maybe I have some of those stories which I will share today. So let's just go out and get on this journey. I'll take you to some of these spots that I remember very vividly, and you have to use your imagination a little bit. But I guess you're going to really enjoy. So you're going to see what it is today, and then you have to imagine what it was like before when I was young, and what is it that I heard about it even beyond time, even before my birth. So we'll start like right at the source. Okay?
So we're at the entrance of Turiyo right now?
Yeah, there is this huge sprawling gate that you see in almost like, these films with these big houses and big ass gates. But this is not how it was. But here was the gate. And there used to be this, and I'm sure I'll be able to show some pictures to you. But there was this little door here, and there were like mud walls on both the sides. And this was my gateway into paradise. So as I was coming as a kid, I would push open the door and I would step in, and here I would stand, and then lo and behold, and I will show you kind of the stuff. But right here, there used to be a place for all our cows. So it's like this cow shed, and there were like 3 cows that I remember, and all of them were male, and we used to use them for cultivation. That time for agriculture, all the plowing was done using the cows. And then they had this huge feeding, we call them majanas. They would like sit here, but here was the cow shed. And as we would come in, and the cow shed would be there. And later the cow shed was moved to that corner on that side, which we will kind of take a look at. But as we would walk in and come in here, the house would start like right here. The house would start right here, and there would be this quadrangle, which I will show you. And this space where we now have the car and the garage was the second time, the cow shed was moved sometime here. So I would kind of walk running in from here, and I would explore the cow shed. And beyond that, there was a small, this biofuels pit that my uncle had put up. It's called the gobar gas. So gobar being the cow dung, and the gas which is emanating from them. And this happened like 40, 50 years back, right? So we set up a gobar gas plant, which is now the new buzz, and it was used, and my uncle was always very adventurous and was trying to figure out how to find, alternate fuels to, make things work. I don't remember much details of it, but I do remember that there was a pit that he had set up, and all the cow dung was going in there to create this gobar gas plant. Start. So, this quadrangle here, where the boundary walls are exactly the place. We didn't really have a boundary wall. There were certain mud walls, but this was the place where it was like our residential quarters. There was a grand total of 2 rooms, and there used to be a veranda here, a very large veranda, which is made of mud. And there were these bamboo poles, and then there were these wooden frames, which would support the ceiling, right, which would have cord on it, which is basically the straw, right? And I remember coming in, the first room was where my uncle used to live, and the second room was where, when we as a family would come, we would settle into this room here. And then they would stretch further, and this corner would be like the kitchen. And so there was this running veranda all the way through. So there was this kitchen, there was this large room which was like the bedroom, and there was this room which was like the uncle room. Now you have to imagine that all of these were like just mud walls, huge, thick mud walls, and between the 2 rooms there was this open area from the top. And in this room, everything that we used to do, like sleep, eat, chat in the evenings. There was no electric power here, right? So we would use the hurricanes, and in the evening when we would be sitting here, it would be like 4 o'clock, would be time to clean the hurricanes, because when it would become dark, we would light the hurricanes, and that would form the light. And then we would cross back and forth here and see what's happening in the kitchen, running back and forth. This was my like favorite space. Now, overall in this courtyard, that veranda would walk right through. So there was like this veranda which would go right through here. There wasn't anything happening. It was just a veranda, and it would end here. And in this corner room, there was this room which was like literally useless with old artifacts. And I heard that my grandfather's father, he was, and his grandfather. So imagine my grandfather's name was Saroj Maiti. His father was Trailakka, and his father's name was, what was his name? Surya Narayan, right? Surya Narayan. So I'm going back in time to two periods, like one my grandfather and his grandfather. So Surya Narayan used to own these 4 quadrangular shaped properties. He was like the big patriarch, and there was 4 sons. So here there used to be these little things called, in Bengali we used to call it mugur, and it's basically like a gym equipment, right? So you would take these big wooden blocks with handles, and you would just do this, fold it up, fold it back up, hold it like this. So wielding these mugurs would be your way of doing muscle exercises, and I couldn't even lift one because I was young, and I used to always wonder who did it, because I was sure my father didn't do it, my grandfather didn't do it. So I was told that his father and great grandfather are the ones who used it. So that was this area, and this area that you can see here was the granary. So it also had a dual structure, like there was an outer wall and an inner wall, and the inner wall mein all the grain would be stored. And it was a strange place. You would walk in from here, so I would come running through the veranda, and there was this little mysterious opening, and right in there would be the granary. So we were not supposed to go there because there were a lot of snakes. There were 2 snakes, cobras, which used to live there, and all of us have seen them, and they had their house in there, and they were like kept and protected. No one of us tried to disturb them. But imagine having like 2 cobras in the granary, and that was a place where all the grains that we would harvest would be stored. And that's another story that, which I will tell you when we go back there. But in this quadrangle, so just, running with these verandas, this was my like little play area. We would walk around, and now the structure is kind of preserved, but now we have gotten a couple of rooms here, which rooms did not really exist. My father had started building one room here, and this is, when that side started breaking down, he started living here. So this room technically was built by my father, and then I built out the rest of the structure. So that external, this thing, the other room that we will go to. But that front room, where we walked in from, was the place where my uncle used to stay. And for some time was also the place where the local post office was located. So he had this trick and a brainwave, and he called in the village post office guy to come in and set up his post office here. And then suddenly it became like a federal property. So these were his little tricks of bringing in additional security. So since it was a post office, nobody dared to mess with this place, because then they would be considering, trespassing on federal property, and it would be like a crime. So my uncle's story for some other day, but he was like the super smart guy, and and he was constantly pigeonholed inside that room. I will take you inside that room, in my memory. This one I can't show anything about, but there were like a lot of these little bookshelves that he had built right into the wall, and and there were these little windows which were going outside, and mostly we would be spending time on the veranda, either sprawled on a madur or something like that. That's in short how this quadrangle would look like, right? Come. Chaku? Let's come. I just wanted to take some tight shot of this.
Yeah, you can start.
So we were talking about material memories, and there are these memories triggered by physical pieces of stuff. So this was the bed that my uncle would sleep on, and was one of my favorite spots. He would obviously always have a mosquito net, covering this bed, which would be tied up and kept on top. But this was like his spot, and I am told that, towards his very end, when he actually had a very fatal stroke, he was on the bed, and then he was kind of hauled off to Kolkata, But I have a lot of memories of my favorite uncle. I was there at his bedside, for the last 10 days before he passed away. But this was a place, and imagine if this was his room. It was like a small hole, inside. It was literally like this small rat hole or like this pigeon hole, and nobody could step in. It was so dirty. There was all kinds of stuff all over, and he had his, bookshelf, of course. He was a voracious reader of mystery books, things like Agatha Christie books, Perry Mason books, and he was a smoker as well, and with his rolled tobacco. So this room would exude, I can literally smell it, even now. And I would rummage through his books and all kinds of papers and all kind of legal things and, stuff strewn all around. He was a bachelor boy, right? So this room was so much of a mystery, and, I would have to literally dip in, into this door. The door had kind of sunk, so you had to be very careful how you were dipped in. But then you would come into the room, and I would sit there and chat with him, or whenever I would drop in, and maybe I've just walked into the door. He was not aware he was inside the room, and I would talk to him. And then, of course, to go out, we would have to go all the way out, and then go through that veranda and go to that adjoining room. But there was this, you can imagine that there was a small room here, and now, of course, all of that is gone. We have built a big new room here where we run the Fala program, where we have also used it as a guest room, and there is so much of new stuff happening here. Maybe someday this will also go and there will be something replacing it, but that story is something I will leave behind for you guys to kind of talk about. But the post office was in this area. If that was like his room, this was an area where there was post office. So this old mail would come in these huge boxes, bags, gunny bags, and the postmaster would sit on the table and he would frank all the letters and the postcards and then put it into a separate bag, and that would then go out with the postman to be dispersed into the village. But there was this whole place there was a stool and there was a stable, where the postmaster would sit and he would sort out all his mails. They would come in mostly for about an hour or so and then go out. But all of that is now not there and has not been there for a long, long while. But I will be able to find out pictures for you where, you can see the veranda and you will see your grandfather and grandmother and, sitting here and pretty much, kind of staring out at there into the world, right? It's, this was a very, very special place for me. And now, of course, it's very modern and, kids come here and play here, etc. So let's just go to the next spot. So now we have a temple here, but before the temple, this is like now 3 years old, but before the temple, this entire section, if you come, walking with me here, this was like the backside, right? So the granary would be there, it's like the grain storage place would be there, and then it would open out, and there was this, kind of a desolate place where there's a lot of stuff which has happened. First things first is that all the grains that would come would be stacked up here. There would be like these yellow cylindrical things, with all the grain, and then it would have a tapered conical stuff on the top. We used to call it like the dhaner gada, like the whole gada of the paddy that was harvested. And this is the place where the paddy would be stripped out and so you would have the straw and you would have the grains. The way they would do it is that there would be like bamboo platforms, like a bamboo mesh platform, kept at an angle, and those guys would take this one bunch, and like this they would go around banging the wooden things, right? Dhan jharano, we used to say in Bangla. So basically getting the dhan out of the stuff, and all the grains that would gather here would be covered up in the evening, would be all collected together. There was a way of getting the chaff out of those by, there would be this kulo kind of thing, so people would stand and wave. So there would be a gust of air which would go through all the dhan, and all of those things would fly out, and the real solid dhan would be then measured in these little baskets and saved there and weighed and put into the granary. So we had an account of how much grain was being put inside there. And now, of course, there is no granary. And then One fine day when I was growing up, I was going to enter college, and I learned that my uncle had become like an entrepreneur, and he was trying to make tiles. These tiles which go on top of houses. You will be able to see some tiles. Nowadays we don't use it here inside our property, but tiles are very common still. And he was making a tiles factory. These are tiles which you put on the roof, and he was calling it Maiti tiles. And I was looking at those tiles, and I was like surprised. Oh my God, these Maiti tiles. So there was this, what do you call that? The tooling dies, and so he had built up a small kind of a factory here to make this tiles. So there was mud coming, tiles were being made, they were being stamped, and all of them had been stacked. So it was a huge area. Then he also went into bricks, is what I'm told. And all of those things were actually kept like a garbage. And this had become, place was so messy. So when I actually came up and I started cleaning up this place, we dug up, my dada was here, elder, cousin, brother, and we dug up so much of bricks. And all the memories of those times, the broken tiles and the broken bricks all came out, and we put it together, and we had to literally get rid of it and put it in some place. But there was all his entrepreneurship going on here, and this was like the back side, where we were storing all the dhan. Also, we would get dhan from a lot of these sharecroppers, right, who would bring in our share. So they would all put it here, everything would get measured here. And in the evening, as everything, dust would come, by that time, things would be transported inside and kept there. None of those people during that time would see the snakes. The snakes would be obviously there, at other times, at quiet times, There was this door here. It was like a bamboo door, which would swing open. And these were like bamboo frames. And sometimes they would just stay coiled around those doors. And kind of, we used to say, oh, they're guarding the property, right? So, like right now you are seeing like one big water body here. We call it Pukur, or the pond, right? And then there's another water body that side. That side was called the Arjuntala, and this was called the Pona Pukur. But I wanted to bring you here because this is where we would come for the bath. So we would like walk down, I would run across from here, down this road, which has now got all these fancy tiles and structures. But it was just a muddy road, right, with a little bit of bricks and all that on it. And then I would run down, and this is the place where we would have our bath. So this was the ghat, and we would like walk down here, and there were these big pieces of wood, like literally, bark, like from the trees which have been cut and put together. Then it would go down a little bit more, and another one put together. So you would have to stand on one, and there would be wooden planks, and then you would go to the next level and go to the next level, and then go for the dip. But after 3 layers, there wouldn't be anything more, and when you step in, it would be like you're going into the muck, right? But you would walk through the muck, and then you would take a dip into the water. The more steps would be there, would be better. So when the water is kind of full, we would be able to stand till about this much, but otherwise sometimes, you can only get till here, like to your hips. And what I remember here was, I would come for the bath, but my uncle would not want to get into the muddy water. So he would ask me to wait. He would first take the bath, and then the water would become muddy, and then he would ask me, now you go out and have the bath. And we would have this neem soap, and with the neem soap and it all getting into my eyes and getting teary with the dirty water. But that was the way we would take our bath. But it was still such a joy because coming in from the city where there was a bathroom and we were taking bucket water baths, and then suddenly being able to dive into this pond. So it's been there for a long time. But this pond and the other pond that you will see, we never used to take our bath there. For some reason it was like one of the more dangerous ones, and there was always this fear that one can drown there, etc. So this was the pond from where we would clean most of our fish and where we would have our bath. But later, when I came in and I wanted to kind of fix up this place and I wanted to make a ghat, this was the right place to do it. But a few days before I wanted to do that, one of my brothers kind of said that, no, your uncle actually always dreamed about, making the ghat here. And I will show you that right now. That's where we have our current ghat, right? This is something that you have also seen where we come in and we make the ghat. But I made it here and not there because it seems it was my uncle's dream. Now, he didn't have the wherewithal, or he didn't really, he was always, being a bachelor, he was always in an inertia. None of us were here permanently. But it seemed like whenever they would like sit and yak and dream about what to do in future, they would say, oh, if I make a ghat, I will make it here. So that's the reason we picked this spot. Earlier there was a huge khejur gach, a khejur, the date palm tree, thing which used to fall here. So catching fish was a big problem because all the fish used to come in under that, and I was given the arduous duty of standing on top of that tree and like bouncing on it a little bit so that the fish would move out and it would be easy to catch it. So there were a lot of stuff happening in this area, but I never knew that he wanted to build a ghat here. So that's why we have the ghat here, and now of course we can all bathe in superb comfort because the stairs go all the way down, etc., and it's all nice and neat and clean. But just to let you know that he is the one who thought about this spot, and I think it's a brilliant spot because it's right in the middle and it's located so well. And now of course these stairs go all the way. There are like about 18-20 stairs, so there's still about 10 or 12 of them left, and we all enjoy taking our bath here. But when they were there, my father and my uncle, they didn't have the luxury of having a comfortable, what's called a pakka ghat. It was always this messy way to take a bath and slip sliding into the pond. So as you're walking in, this is I wanted to show you to the bamboo grove, and I would want you to come walk right inside. This has always been the place where we had this bamboo grove. There were two groves, but this was the main one. And it used to be, terribly haunted in my mind, and I would be very scared to come here for two reasons. One, there would be all kinds of snake and all that around. Still there is, but there were two things which happened here. One, there was this Didi who used to work, and her name was like Lokhi, and I used to call her Lokhi Di, but she was very old, and she would refer to me as this little boy, little baby. She was like my grandmother's age, and when she died, her last rites were done here. So she was, put to death here. Basically her funeral pyre and all that was around this place. I don't know whether it was right here or there was on the other side, but it was right near the bamboo grove, and that put a further scare in my mind later not to tread in this area at all. And later, years later, when your Dadu, your mother's side Dadu, also when he died and we did this little ritual, you may remember, we had to bring in something to offer to the birds and to the animals to eat, the last meal, and that is also something that we placed here. So there is a lot of connection with here and the past ancestors. Also a place where my uncle would come to use the loo. So like open air toilets are so common in villages even now, but you would be able to make out because a couple of days later you would be actually visually be able to spot that somebody has taken a dump here. So this bamboo grove was very intense, at that time, and it still is. The reason that they are all bent over like this has also got a connection to the storm which happened, the Amphan, which was a very, very strong, cyclone that we had in '91. And you can see all these bamboo trees are bent this way. They were all on the other side, and the storm lifted the bamboos and pushed them towards this end. And when it got pushed here, there were many of them which were uprooted. If you come like that side, if you come and see, so you can see all of this were uprooted. They were actually lifted up, and then they started growing these roots down, back again. So this entire grove was lifted from here with that cyclone and pushed that side, and these things kind of grew back into the earth, right? And that's how this place turned to the left. But then there are newer shoots which have gone up from here, new bamboos, which are now going all the way vertically up. So it's a sight to see that so many vertical bamboos are now growing. They're all new. These are all new, fresh ones, which have gone all the way up. So that's how a bamboo grove, kind of lives and survives the test of time and continues to evolve, right? That's the beauty of nature. Hundreds of years that they are surviving and growing like this. So this thing, as I kind of wrap up, this part of our story, are these, this relationship that we now have with the trees. It was very difficult for me to fathom earlier, but now when you come, every tree has this story. So there was a time when I was kind of standing here and I used to be mesmerized by this very artistic, nature of these branch. If you look at it, the main tree kind of goes there and then it suddenly breaks off into these little branches which come from the side. I have no reason why, but and you see how it's like literally like limbs. They will come out and they've not like gone up, but these trees go up very high. And if you look at the other tree there, both of these are called shirish trees. Now these have gone up very high and they can go up even higher. The branches are very fragile, so that means in a storm they can fall and they can break easily, but they're very well known for giving this shade. And what I've been told is that my uncle used to like these trees because he felt that it would bring a lot of shade into the property. So you can see this one here and this here, and for a long time I used to imagine that what if we could create a place to like stay here. That was before all this house and other things got built, and now and that was like almost 10 years back, and now suddenly we have built actually a house here. There's a room here, there's like a little bungalow. So I feel that a lot of these things we think about. I think my uncle loved this shirish gach, and that's why he had put up a lot of these. A lot of people don't like these trees because they break and they can damage the house and things like that. But they bring beautiful shade, and they also have very interesting flowers. Of course, they shed a lot of leaves, like you can see in this season. But I love them, and I just want to walk around and show you a couple of these old trees. And then we also have this khejur gach, right? So you can imagine that when I was young, this is how high the khejur gach would be. And you can see this pattern here. This is where the bark would be, chiseled away, because during this season, during this winter, between winter and spring, is the season when the sap would come, right? And we would be getting the rosh or the sweet, bark, what do you call it? The sap of the tree, and from where you can make gur. But we would, get it, and you could drink it fresh in the morning. It would be beautiful. But knowing my uncle, he wanted to make toddy out of it. So for toddy, there were these special mud vessels in which there would be a coating and a bast put in there. So when the rosh would come in, it would ferment. We would keep it out in the sun, and by midday, like today this is like at noon, we would have it, and it would give us. It's like a beer, right? It's like gives you a very, very smooth high. But you can see here the thing, and you can see that tree, at the same level. So 1 year they would cut from this side, and then the next year they would cut from that side. Then another year they would cut from that side. That's how you know that, every season we have taken rosh from it, and the tree has kept on growing. And then of course we stopped it after some point of time because my uncle must have passed away, and that's why we stopped. The skill sets of doing this are also gone. But there would be people who would come with a hadi, and they would have this thing, they would go up there and they would chisel the trees. So these are like that old. These are all khejur gach, and they continue to be there. There's one very interesting one there as we will walk through, where you had come as this little kid, and then you guys, and I had taken pictures of you guys as kids, and you came back to the same place and we took pictures again. And we must go there and capture that tree as well. And then you can go back in time and look at that picture. So a lot of times, these trees fall, right? When they grow up, they'll mature, they will die, but a lot of times they continue to live. So this one, like we are being able to touch it here, right? This is a place where it has been chiseled. So obviously the levels were far more down, right? We have later, raised the floor levels by putting more soil and more earth on it. But this is the place where you took a picture as a young girl. I think you were like maybe just 2.5 or 3. And, Ronak, he was maybe 5 or something, and we had a picture of him as well. And then later you guys came and we took the same picture where you guys had grown, and so you should see that picture. But this is the tree along which we did. This again has the same pattern. Every year, it is cut here or there, and that's all a sign of when we were taking the khejur rush from it. Most of the other trees here I have put up, but I will end this trip with just showing you 2 more of those trees, which you already know. This is a famous one, the tamarind one. And this tamarind one was under a lot of threat, because people don't like to keep tamarind trees. And when I came in and I wanted to settle back in, everybody told me, get rid of the tamarind tree, it's not good for the house. And I said, no, how can it be not good for the house? It's a tree. And we I decided obviously to not listen to others, and it has just grown magnificently. It's, and I really believe now that, trees respond to human beings, and this, there's this conversation we have with them, and they know, they get the vibes of human beings, and they know that we are here to stay, and they feel very happy. So this has really like flowered and really grown. And this is not something because I'm putting water on it or anything. It is the same soil, same way it's been growing. So what suddenly caused it to splurge miraculously, right? There's this one tree, and then there's another tree. If you were to zoom in on this side, you will find that big tree with this, deep green leaves. That's like a bokul tree. It was literally, the tree was dying. It was planted by my grandfather's father. And bokul trees grow very old. So that tree is over 100 years old, the one right below behind the khejur trees. And that one, again, it's the same example. It was like a scavenged, dying plant, dying tree. And now it's like flourished all across, right? It's green, it's growing, it's everywhere, it's like growing. And I was told that, that's how trees understand that this place has now, kind of, people are living here, and it's not a desolate place. It's not been deserted by people, and they like it. And that's how they kind of grow. If you look all around, all of these were planted. This one was my grandfather's father, but that Kirishkach again there, that was done by the uncle. This Jamgach, which is here, was by my uncle. This mango tree here, you can see the intense, bloom in the mango tree. It's like, if all of that goes to fruit, it will not be able to even see the leaves there, right? There is so much, bloom that has come onto the mango tree. Right next to that is the jackfruit tree. So, and that side is the jam tree. So the jam, aam, kathal, in Bengali we have this thing. In every little Bengal household, there's the aam, jam, kathal. So that's the aam. That side is the jam, which is like the berry trees, and this is the kathal, which is like the jackfruit, trees. So all of these were, and there used to be a tree here. Missing tree was a mohua tree, and a mohua tree is a little sweet fruit that you can make into, again, a very intense toddy kind of stuff, a liquor. And my uncle used to do that with the mohua trees also. And I don't know whether it was just a natural death or it got killed by my mom, when she was here. But somehow that tree disappeared. But even I have seen it, about 10 years back. But all these trees together, I think, are, done by the older generation. And now, of course, I have done, and you have also done, and Shimul has done, is all the new generation trees, which are growing so much. So these trees are these chatim trees. And I put two of them on the two sides of the ghat because I wanted to, sit and meditate below the trees. I just read somewhere that Abanindranath, which is Rabindranath Tagore's elder brother, he used to sit and meditate below the chatim trees. So I said, we want to put up these two chatim trees, and now see how much they have grown, right? They have just grown. This is fantastic. I mean, this we put up in 2018, 2018. So it's just like 5 years, and it's really grown, and they're having a battle up there, the tamarind tree and the chatim tree, trying to outgrow each other. This side it is growing. There's a kanchar tree, which is here, right? It's a beautiful flowers coming just for a few weeks in summer. There's the kamini trees, and all of these trees are all new, and they're all kind of set up, now as a part of our, I think it's a part of, the little stuff I'm doing to continue it on. Just like I was given so many trees by my uncle, and then some have lived and some have passed away. And now I think, we have done our bit, and then next, you guys will do also your bit, and then somebody else will carry it on or whatever. It's, it's sharply collapsing memories. So this is all the memories, but you don't see anything of that past, and I just hope that I was able to recall it here. Maybe on another day we'll talk a little bit about how we came here and how we got here and all that, but it was more interesting. I just wanted to share this because, this is the place, this is what makes Turiyo. So as people come in here, they would want to know what was here, and this is how the only way you can know it. Otherwise you're going to see this big house and internet and, Amazon coming and delivering, and there would be no way you can imagine what it was before. So hopefully these little snippets of memories will serve that purpose. That's it.